caught in the crossfire. It's caught in the.
What's good, fam? It's your boy T3. Monday, fun day. That's right, we back at it again. So you know what we about to do. But let's start with you and the crew. Now, pull up, boom, hey.
I used to be so beautiful, now look at me. My actions are unbeautiful, it's clear to see. Come on and step out of the cage, turn a chapter, turn the page.
All right, with so many beautiful things that's happening in the world right now, with all the greatness that is out there, it was pointed out to me recently that I seem to be very biased against the DC universe, that I'm always hating on them, that I'm always talking about their movies, that I must be a Marvel fanboy lover. First of all, there's only one person in the world that I love more than myself, and that's Shorty to my back. You know what I mean? So let's get that on the facts. Number two, I'm an equal opportunity hater. I hate everybody fairly. So, made me go back into the archives, pull the things out from what we do, and let's talk about that X-Men, that first X-Men. Yes, Fox-driven X-Men. Before Disney's come in, now Disney has made some mistakes, but Disney's in the process of correcting those mistakes. I feel like they're taking a whole twist and turn to which way they're doing it, but we're going to see how well they do. So far, so good. And now that they are, well, not everything is so far so good. Let's slow that down. We'll talk about that in a minute. But X-Men, the first movie dropped. The first time we had Hugh Jackman. The first time they brought in Professor X. The first time you meet Jean Grey and Scott and the gang with Storm and all the rest of these things. So let's start there. When they announced Hugh Jackman as the Wolverine, let's be real. Your boy was super skeptical because your boy's like 6 foot tall. Wolverine is like 5'2", 5'3" at the max. You know what I'm saying? There's a reason why they call him Runt. You know what I'm saying? Because he's so short. He's just an angry little man who's out there trying to do damage to the world. Like your boy, yours truly. But out there, in fact, I was a little hesitant because I'm like, Wolverine is a hard character to pull out. Hugh Jackman, over the course of the years, has recently proven that he is the one and only Wolverine that we'll take at this particular time that we got going on right now. But let's go into the storyline a little bit. You have Rogue, who they started the story correctly and how she was coming about. But the whole thing of her having a crush on Wolverine was a bit much. You know what I'm saying? First and foremost, Rogue was, a little bit older, yes. And her little love about was Gambit. So I'm figuring because they didn't bring in Gambit until like the Wolverine movie, and even then the guy they got as Gambit was a little weak sauce. They could have gone with a different story on that. Sabretooth, oh my gosh. That was the most awful Sabretooth you could ever find in this here universe ever to be written. First, he was dumb as paint. Okay, number two, he looked like the cartoon, but he come off like really barbaric. He had like maybe 5 lines in the whole thing. And then Wolverine not to know who Sabretooth was, that was a jarring piece. Yes, I know later on they went and wrote that he got shot in the head with an antimanium bullet, which caused him amnesia. But the one thing that comics, Wolverine knew who Sabretooth was. He knew who his enemy was. He knew what was going on with his life on that aspect. He didn't know where his animanium came from. He didn't know how he ended up with it. He didn't know his past, who his family was, all those things. But he knew who Sabretooth was based on the history that those two had. So for them to write it as though they had no idea who the other one was. But let me take that back. Sabretooth apparently knew who Wolverine was, but Wolverine didn't know who Sabretooth was. That was just colossal fail. Scott, Cyclops. Look, I get it. Cyclops has always been the weakest character in the group. I do, even in the comic books, even in the animes and the cartoon shows and stuff like that. But he was not a full-on punk, or the other word I would like to use, but this is a kid-friendly show. He was, oh my God, he cried all the time. He sounded like he was just like always just in a foul, stinking mood. The whole dynamic between Wolverine, Cyclops, and Jean Grey was interesting. I was not mad at the fact that who they had as Jean Grey. She did okay. I think she could have asserted herself a little bit more, with confidence. I think a lot of things was a young generation X-Men, but they were not completely young because they were already part of the team on that dynamic. Magneto, he was weak. Like, let's be real. Like, he later on solidified himself as the Magneto, outside of the young Magneto that they did bring in. His plan, his whole thing of changing humans into mutants. First and foremost, let's be real. Magneto has no interest in humankind whatsoever. He hates all of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, equally. He's seen the worst of people, and he does not believe in people. He is interested in mutants and mutants alone. Mutant superiority. And changing people into mutants was not ever Magneto's plan. He was never trying to bring in the people that influence the power. Just kill them all. You know what I'm saying? That was always his thing. Even when Magneto got all the mutants that he could and created an entire planet above the atmosphere. As long as you didn't come to my world, I leave your world alone. But until then, stay away from me. You know what I'm saying? So, and then what is sad, what is really sad about this is that Storm, let's be real. Halle Berry went from Catwoman to Storm, her redemption arc. Because as Catwoman, she was nyeh. But as Storm, she actually did very well. She has been our classic Storm. We can envision Halle Berry as Storm. And the sad thing that I'm mentioning is that Chadwick Boseman is not here to marry her. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine if my man Chad was still here? Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not know? Did you not hear? Did you not pay attention to what goes down? Black Panther's true wife would have been Storm. Their son would have been a part of the young X-Men. He would have had the powers of the Black Panther and the powers of his mother. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine that couple, that power couple right there, protecting Wakanda? She still would have been an X-Men. She still would have been doing her thing. He still would have been a king, him doing this thing. But that was his girl. That was his Khaleesi. That was his moon and stars. You know what I'm saying? That was what the part that we was all waiting on eventually to go down, that the African king meets the African queen, and it was going to be Wakanda forever, but we didn't get that. So that was the sad part. Now let's not fully downgrade the movie. It was, let's see, how many Afro picks? Yes, let's start there. How many Afro picks did this movie get? It was like a 3.2 Afro picks. Enough for me to rewatch it. I've seen it at least a couple times. So anything that jumps above a rewatch, it's got to be above 2.5. The introduction of Wolverine, even though I think they tried too hard in the first movie and they started getting it right as the movie's going along, he was not a bad Wolverine. So that automatically brings you up to a 2.8. Professor X was on point and on top and on big games. You know what I'm saying? So that brings you to a 3. And then the rest of the team has to come in together, the storyline and everything else. Even though the storyline was absolutely wrong, it was absolutely terrible, it gave us something interesting and forward to look to, especially since it was going to fall into a series. And as each movie went along, they got better and better with what they did, but they still messed up along the way, which we will discuss during the rest of the course of this week. For the most part, it is now canon to the universe. It is now what Disney has done is with the multiverse. This is like the variations of the Wolverine, the variation of Professor X, the variations of Storm and Cyclops and Beast and Jean Grey and the Phoenix and all the rest of these things. And with the combination of them bringing in the young X-Men with the older X-Men, it kind of like gives you two halves to the tale on where they started, where they finished, and so forth and so on. The tie-in was dope and nice. Now, unlike DC, Marvel has crashed on the anime world. There's a couple X-Men, Black Panther, Iron Man animes that came out later that Japan did that was actually pretty dope. But they have done better on the movie scale than they have on the anime or animation scale on that factor. So this is where DC outplays the Marvel universe. because their animation on the DC level is absolutely phenomenal. Like it's second to none. It's hands down some of the best stuff that's out there for superheroes out there in this world. Where you have, I want to say, maybe 4, 5 different animes that they've done with the X-Men or done with the Marvel Universe that just was weak sauce. So this is the take on X-Men, the first one. We'll talk tomorrow about X-Men 2 United. I want to say that's what it was called. What was my big beef with that one? You know what I'm saying? So you're probably saying, well, you said a lot about the first one. What was your beef? My beef was the storyline with Wolverine, my storyline with Rogue, this whole, the Iceman piece. Like, I like Iceman. They got the kid from Smallville, Mr. Jimmy Olsen himself, when he was still young in the game, before he was hardcore into Smallville as an Iceman over here. They ended up changing Pyro. If you notice, from the first movie to the second movie, it was 2 different actors that played Pyro in that. You didn't think, you wasn't paying attention, was you? You didn't see that. So they have recasted that role. And just the overall connection between Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Cyclops, it was iffy at most. You know what I'm saying? Like you knew it was there, but it was not no magic. You know what I'm saying? You never felt like Jean was gonna pick Scott, or pick Wolverine. You know what I'm saying? It was always one of those fixated things where I always pick Scott. Get out of here. You know what I'm saying? You was jocking, my boy. I seen your face. I seen the eye look in your eyes. Don't even trip. But that's where we're going to begin. This is where we're going to start with our Marvel talk about. And we're going to talk about the things that they have done well, but we're also mainly going to focus on where did they mess up? Where did they could have done better? Where sometimes directors start doing things that they shouldn't be doing. Like, why do you know what? I'm ranting too much. My time is short, so let's do this because your attention span definitely ain't in there. But if you see your mans in the streets, hit them with the beats and hit them with a jingle jangle, baby. Jingle jangle.